Hi and welcome to New World Project.
You promised me a jingle.
It's the podcast of Euston Street's most famous co-working place with your host Philip Dodson and the bloke that should have
The bloke who should have done a jingle, buddy.
Yeah, the bloke who sort of wanders in, and one day we'll get to it where it'll be Phil's podcast. But there's a lot of hand holding here.
Yes, it's a bit tricky.
I'm in some kind of like consultancy role here, so I need to, once he finds out that he just has to press a button on a mobile phone, I'm screwed. But before we came on air, we were talking about.
Before we came on air, I threw my Naked Bar wrapper straight into the bin without even seeing it.
That's it, and we should have got that as well.
Yeah.
Back to the thing, because we were actually talking about creating so much content and it being useful, and we spent 3 minutes warming up there nervously. So now you look really serious.
Uh-oh.
What happened with content? There was content shock we were talking about before we came on.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. We went to that thing at that other main yard place, the co-working space, 90 Bank Yard in Hackney Wick. Yeah. And Ali from LiftShare was there, and very interesting conversation and talk. He was talking about his business. And one of the things he mentioned was about content and how to stay different and stuff, because we spend a lot of our time pumping out content. We're doing newsletters, podcasts, blogs, all sorts of other stuff on social media. And the problem, I think, for freelancers particularly, but for anybody, is that there is, so much content, and how do you find the time to digest it all? And I think that's where it's about the purple cow bit that our mate Seth and others have hit the nail on the head, that it's now even more important. And Ali said the word, which I think is important, is to be relevant. You've got to find things that are relevant for people, because otherwise it's just another lot of noise, another lot of stuff passing by that people are not going to stop and look at, because they're going to find something else that's relevant to them. And I think that's the whole issue for any business, but particularly in the business we're talking about and co-working and stuff, is how do co-working spaces stay relevant for their particular audience. And I think that's what we're looking at here and working on here is trying to stay relevant, and our target audience being our perfect customer being a freelancer.
Is that who we're looking to acquire?
Yeah, that's
part
right.
of our acquisition strategy.
Exactly, yes. So top of the list is a freelancer, obviously, and the idea is, what we're trying to do here is to create relevant stuff for freelancers. So we've got your workshop coming up about Trello. Obviously, lots of freelancers will use Trello, or maybe thinking about using Trello. So that's
other project tools available.
Yeah, exactly. And then in a couple of weeks' time, in a month's time, I'm running my workshop on pitching and presentation, and that's all about how to stand out, how to be different, how to be, that purple cow, how to focus on your values. And again, interestingly, Ali touched on it, how he'd stuck to his values for 17 years and has built an amazing business without the need for an investor. And I think that's, again, how you can stand out, and that's how you can be different, is sticking to your values, because, we all have our own unique set of values and our passion. There's someone actually, a lady I'm mentoring with who's setting up a business. I won't mention who it is because it's in the early stages, but her passion is what's driving her forward, because she has a story behind her business. It's something that's going to really stand out, and she's going to be setting something up in the retail environment. And lots of retailers, they just fight on price, and that's all they've got. All they've got is that manipulation of price. And what the consumer wants is someone that's got passion, a story behind it, something that's going to be relevant for them, something that's going to touch what matters to them.
I'll switch it off while I disagree with you, Phil. But do consumers want passion, or do they want price?
They want passion, because if we bought what we needed, which is related to price, we would only ever buy the cheapest of anything. We would only buy Tesco's value baked beans, but we don't. We occasionally buy.
I thought it was just me.
Occasionally we splash out and buy, the branded one. Yeah. But we it's back to Simon Sinek's, the golden circle thing, that our strong part of our brain is our limbic brain, and that's where the why is. That's where we buy things on emotion, things that we can't always quite describe or understand. It's just something very powerful that we buy, and that's where the most successful products, businesses, people is the ones that articulate that why, articulate their mission, their goals, their values, and stick to them, because that's what people really want. You look at the most successful people, and it's not about money or materials, where they've achieved their goals. It's because they've achieved it based on a story, based on their passion, based on their why. And that's what freelancers are going to put into their thing, because, freelancers leave the corporate world, leave that corporate mothership and all that security, and they think, well, this is easy. I can do what I've always done for big corporation, and if I come up against a bit of a sort of, stumbling block, I can always cut the price because I don't have all the overheads. But that's wrong. What you've got to do is build something the customer really wants, something that's relevant to the customer, and then the price will never be an issue. Price is never an issue if you build something relevant.
I think there's a bit more to it than that, because when people drop their, I saw this in a lot of, in my other life, when I used to do some networking, there'd be people who had left the corporate mothership and they'd do exactly what you said. Oh, well, I can do it cheaper. And there was this concept of if I'm working, they confused doing some marketing or doing something to get their foot in the door with dropping their price and knocking the other guy out of the game. Yeah. So that didn't work. But then the type of people that will go, oh, I'll take you because you've dropped your price, are the kind of people that piss you around. So, and I thought it was just a bit of a legend, but obviously I don't want to embarrass people. I'm like £5,000 a day, but every time I've said some astronomical fee, apart from you, but someone's said, oh, either I can't afford that, and that's been it, which has saved me loads of time, or someone's been, oh yeah, sure. And more often people just say yes anyway. And they cause you less trouble when you charge them a higher price. And it's not to do with being greedy or anything. It's just the type of people that will accept your incredibly low price are going to piss you about.
Well, it goes back to
they don't understand the value.
Yeah, but that's back to that earlier. It's back to the classic bell curve, isn't it, of the adoption of things, where on one side of the bell curve you get the early adopters, the people who are the kind of, people who will be evangelists for your mission and for what you're doing. On the other side of the bell, after you've got the mass market, are the laggards, and those are the ones that you don't want in your business, because all they're doing is waiting until everyone else has tried it. They're waiting until prices hit rock bottom, and they'll just be a pain in the arse all the time. And that's what happens when you drop your price and you virtually say my product or service has no value. Once you get to that price dropping thing, all you're going to attract is the laggards. The people that are just interested in the price only, and they just nitpick everything and be a real pain. So that's the thing. But I understand why freelancers initially do that, because they've set up, they've got suddenly costs, they're out on their own. It's a bit scary. It's a bit like, oh my God. Someone comes along, you think, oh, it's a bit of business. Oh yeah, I'll do it half price then if you sign tomorrow, kind of thing. And of course, that brings some money in, and sometimes you have to do what you have to do initially when you're starting out to get things going. But it's a recipe for disaster longer term, because you're already sending out signals that you're not valuing what your product or service is, so no one else is likely to.
So we were talking about this in another group, in another co-working space yesterday.
Yes.
And when you start as a freelancer, when one starts as a freelancer, my father gave me £1 million and I turned it into 1,100,000, but that's another story. So when you start as a freelancer, there's all these things you have to do, which are coming up in other podcasts, like the money, the marketing, fixing the toilet, and there's so much stuff to do, and that dilutes your energies.
Yes.
And that is why being in, a bit over networking groups now, but being in a networking group or a meetup or a co-working, obviously the best place to be is a co-working space, is where you find that support that money can't buy. Echo Community is another really good place to do that. Yeah,
exactly. And that's why we're trying to, in collaboration with Echo and Kindred and WeShare and other groups, that's what we're trying to do here at the Hub, is to create that kind of almost ecosystem for freelancers. So, the desk to work at really isn't that important, because you can have a desk at home, you can have a desk at Starbucks, horrible word, you can have a desk anywhere. Mm-hmm. The most important thing is the people around you and what you can get, and that's why it's important for co-working spaces particularly to make their offering relevant to their target audience. So, if you're in Old Street, you've got to make it relevant to tech companies. Here in Euston or some other place, you've got to pick your target audience and make your content and make your products and services relevant to them. and that's where you stand out. That's where you'll be different, and that's the most important thing. So if you're running your own business as a freelancer, you've got to make your thing relevant. Otherwise, your content is just going to be there in amongst the mix with everybody else's, and no one's got time for it. People don't. It's just not enough time to consume all this content because they're busy creating their own, hoping someone else will read theirs.
Do you know the book Utility?
No, I don't.
Usually we practice these things before I introduce them into the conversation. But so Utility,
is that a utility warehouse where you can save money on electricity?
Yeah,
Sorry, I'm distracted.
So Utility is a book by Jay Baer, and it's about making your marketing useful. So really good. Marcus Sheridan, Sheridan, who I'm always banging on about with his plastic swimming pool company.
Yes.
He didn't say a plastic swimming pool is really good because I sell them. He said plastic swim. People. He educated people how to organise buying a pool, how to run it, how to do everything to do that. So even after people have bought the pool, they go back to Marcus's blog and go, "Oh, what do I do with this chemical with my thing?" So there was a huge knock-on effect. So Hugh, a nice man I know that sells office furniture, always posts, "We've just won an award as Braintree Office Furniture of the Year." Now, that's not useful, but what to look for when choosing an office chair is really useful.
Exactly,
and that's can't say his name, but a friend of mine made over £500,000 a year by hardly doing anything. And what he did is he did the SEO for plastic surgery companies on Harley Street. So people, when they're having plastic surgery on intimate parts of their body, they don't open a brochure in a. That's a very intimate thing to do, and he just cleaned up because it's like people. How much does it cost to get a breast enlargement on Harley Street? That was what people searched for. So it was useful information.
Exactly, and the relevance thing now has become so important because of the sheer volume of content that's being pumped out by everybody, because everybody realise that content marketing is really important. So not everybody, but more and more people are doing it. But a lot of them are doing it as a tick box exercise of pumping stuff out, making noise, and they feel like they're achieving something. And then they're wondering why they're not getting results. And the reason they're not getting results is they haven't thought about making it relevant to their audience.
So what are some good, if we both didn't practice this either, so what are 3 good blogs you're reading that actually you come back to on a basis?
I have to say Seth Godin's blog I read every day religiously. James Altucher, I always need to get it right. I read pretty regularly. There's a few others that I kind of read fairly regularly. Obviously read yours regularly.
You don't have to say that really. So let's go with those two. Why do you turn up to James and Seth's blogs?
Seth Godin's I like because firstly it's very quick and easy to read, but he's very insightful. He's someone that can make, some people write pages and pages and he says it in 2 sentences. But I think the thing about Seth Godin's blog and what appeals to me is he is prepared to be different. It's about questioning things that other people might not question. He's a rebel about the establishment. He's a rebel about the system, which appeals to me. That's my thing. James Altucher, his blogs go into much more depth, but again, he's quite rebellious in his kind of thing. I think those 2 particular people, the reason I read their stuff regularly is because they are different. They question things. They're curious. They make you become curious about what you're doing. And I think that's what's missing from marketing, from business, from society in general, is any form of curiosity. And it's been kind of stamped out of us by the system because curiosity doesn't match with compliance, and the system wants compliance. And I think businesses need to be less compliant. They need to be more curious. They need to be...
Apart from financial services.
But interestingly, they're the least compliant, actually. But no, it's not about. I don't mean about breaking the law. I mean about not following the rules of marketing, not following the rules of business, doing something different, standing out, and that's what's missing. And that actually is the time. I think Seth says in one of his books or somewhere else, risky is the new safe.
Yep.
Safe is done to death. Everyone's safe. Every business, every football manager plays a safe formation. Every politician puts out safe policies. Everything's safe. And it's boring and people are fed up with it. And if you want to stand out from the crowd, you have to be risky. And risky, it takes being brave, the Brené Brown thing, being vulnerable and stuff. And that's what you've got to be in your content. That's what you've got to be in your services. Relevant and risky.
So there's a few things I read about this, and so there's one about the elevator pitch, and this guy says, who here likes giving their elevator pitch, and no one puts a hand up, and then he says, and this is our audience for business people. He starts off by saying, who's got an elevator pitch? And everyone's like, yeah, I've got an elevator pitch because I'm an obedient business person. Who likes giving their elevator pitch? Like no one puts a hand up. And then he goes, who likes hearing other people's elevator pitch? And, no one puts his hand up. And he goes, can I just check? So you all have one. You don't like using it and you don't like hearing it. So and there's 150 of you people in this room. So is anyone just not putting their hand up because no one else did, or what's going on here? And they're like, no, it sucks because I work with a range of people giving a service that's specific to our clients' needs, and people just don't connect with that.
No, well, it's become worn out a little bit. I think this kind of elevator pitch and all that kind of stuff. I think it's more about making longer term connections with people and not being so impatient to get straight into their pocket and prize money from their wallet. But again, the standard homogenized bland business model is about how you can kind of, get them down that greasy funnel into your pot and extract as much money out of them as possible. And I think it's much more now about building relationships. And it goes back to the thing we were talking about. Give them something relevant, be a bit risky, a bit different, and build relationships, and then the business comes, and it's much more sustainable, it's much more soulful, meaningful, enjoyable to be a part of as a customer and to deliver it as a business owner. And I think that's what a lot of freelancers shy away from, because everyone does. No one wants to be risky. They think it's actually, I'll keep plodding out the same safe stuff.
So I've got two examples here which by seamless intervention were included in the Work Hub's blog today. Work Hub's newsletter today. There's Kat Johnson, who's our friend from she's a writer on Shareable, and she's a freelancer, and she used to work at home, and then something happened, but that's her story. And now she works in a co-working space, and she talks about how working in a co-working space can help your freelance career. And the other person in there was, who I'll go into a bit more detail now, is Paul Jarvis. And he talked about, this is one of those freelancer things that gets overlooked. It's about how to onboard clients.
Yeah.
So in the article, which link in the show notes, he says about how he has this. So Paul Jarvis is a web designer, and he also writes a lot about the freelance world, which is most things you'll hear us talk about in here. We just nicked out of there. So it's onboarding a client. And he has people say, I'd like to work with you. So he sends them tons of content. And Marcus Sheridan does this with river pools, because after people will make a purchase after they've read a certain amount of content. So if you think of content as in rather than going around sticking your business card on people's forehead, it's educating your potential market, and this is where the relevancy thing goes wrong.
Well, relevancy, and also, but the other thing, and interesting what you're saying there, is the people who have the foresight enough to give. Mm-hmm. I know you've got the very extreme version of my mate Gary V, who's like give, and then hook them in, suck them, and kill them. Oh, well, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about genuinely giving without any agenda. If you give without an agenda, things come back. There's that kind of reciprocal thing within all of us.
I could have paused today,
Yeah, exactly. But you just wanted to make me look. You enjoyed the stuttering. But the reciprocal thing within all of us, and that's the thing. If you genuinely give to people, again, it's relevant, be a bit risky, and build relationships. Like 3 R's. Look at that.
Wow.
I've just invented that. The 3 R's: relevant, risky, and relationships. And those things are what you need to focus on. And it's about giving, because you give to people genuinely with no agenda. You're not looking to get an invoice out to them at some point, or what can I get back from them.
So if you give people an invoice, that's not
Well, you can do, and I think that's important. And you talked about it just then. What those people have done, Paul Jarvis, the swimming pool guy, Marcus Sheridan, and the others, is they've given to other people their knowledge, they've shared. And maybe they did have an agenda, but I think the most successful people are the ones who don't have an agenda. They're not immediately searching for the pound notes and what they can get back. And what comes around goes around. and it does make a difference. And that's how, again, you can stand out, because it's almost, some people are a bit surprised that you're being so giving, but it actually attracts people. It makes you more interesting than someone who's just giving for the sake of, getting an invoice out to you.
So I think that, and this is actually happening like with the, with the Right Club and other look and the Echo thing, because I feel much more comfortable getting paid in Echoes, because I hate running, selling workshops, because it ends up in that internet marketer kind of thing. But it's actually like Niels and I started doing the Trello workshop, and then we built the online course out of it. So look, ultimately at some point you're looking to sell your online course, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's what you do. But what you have done in advance of that is you built a relationships with the people. So you built a relationship with Niels, you worked with him to develop this thing. You then built a relationship with Echo and got it out to Echo and got people coming along to that, and that's built up a group of people that are now interested in what you're doing. But you gave first, you gave your knowledge of Trello with there wasn't an invoice involved. Well, it didn't take very long.
No. Neil's probably took a bit longer, but that's the thing, and that's part of the workshops we're doing here. They're free to the members. You have to pay 2 Echoes or so 3 Echoes, or what it is, to come along on the Echo platform. But you don't have to pay money to come to the workshops. What we're doing here genuinely is giving people and sharing knowledge, either from ourselves or from other people that are going to come along and do workshops, because that will help other freelancers and that will help them improve their lot. And if that results in some more people coming to our workshops, great. But if it doesn't, equally great. It doesn't matter. It's about giving.
It builds the tribe.
Yeah, exactly.
Just to round off I want to point people in the direction of the Paul Jarvis article, linked in the show notes, because he says about how to onboard people.
Yes.
And the content, blah, blah, blah. And then people fill in then he has a call after people have reached a certain stage. Yeah. So 6 people made it through the final stage, so he saved a ton of time, and he wasn't trying to do it in that old web designer way. Fill it where you fill in a form, which was basically writing your own quote. Yeah. It wasn't that type of thing. It was just to move people along. So 6 people went through the whole process, and 5 people signed. And the only reason the 6th person didn't sign is because they missed a bit about I'm booked 4 months ahead. And he said to them, "Did you feel a bit icky, getting this far down the process and not talking to me?" He goes, "No, it just actually saved a lot of time, because all the questions I would have had, which are mainly the feeling that I want were written in your articles. And if someone, is sort of, I'm sure you can work it out, listener, but if you write interesting, relevant stuff, people will read all the way through it and go, oh, you're right for me, you're not right for me." And
exactly, but that's a good thing. See, if you're clear and relevant and prepared to be a bit risky, you'll cut out the people who are not right for you.
Yeah.
Because if you actually say what you really believe in, what you stand for, what's important to you, we're not here for everyone. Mm-hmm. We're here for the people who will connect with us, who matter. We're not here for the mass market. We're not all going to be the next Facebook or Google, or some of them might be, but most of us won't, right? We're here for our niche, for our tribe, for the people who matter to us. So the clearer you put that message out, the more relevant you make it, the slightly riskier you make it, you'll cut out all the deadwood, the people you don't need.
And just in case you didn't, our niche tribe are one-legged vegans, primarily from certain
people who laugh at our jokes, and that's a very small audience.
Certain areas of East London, but you're not allowed to have a hipster family, and you must use a Chromebook. Yeah. That's it, really, isn't it?
That's it. That's all we're looking for.
So you can find us online by just go to your computer, say, "Okay, Google, take me to Work Hubs."
Yeah.
If that doesn't work.
It doesn't work. You can find us at 105A Euston Street, just a minute's walk from Euston Station. You can just Google Philip Dodson, and that's it. I'll be all over
everything.
So, and it's DODSON, not to be confused with the one with a B in it.
There we go. Thank you very much for listening and spending your very valuable time with our very insecure business advice today. Thanks very much. Bye.